it's time once again, as it is each and every time this on the weekends, I guess. Oh, well, whenever. For Michael Snyder, talking about movies. Hello, Michael.
Hello, Alex. And yes, it's sometimes confusing on a gray day in New York and LA. We share that in common today. But it's the weekend, as you say, and we've got a few films, some of which are worth our attention. And we'll try to get through them and tell you where to go and where to stay and where to. Hey, I can't tell you where to go and where to stay, but I can tell you what movies I liked and which ones I thought sucked. And speaking of suckage, let's start with Melissa McCarthy. Oh, but the truth is, her new film Spy, which is maybe the first film to full-on star her without any. Oh no, that's a lie. She's done a couple others, but they're generally ensembles, and this one is too. And this is a good film, believe it or not, and it reunites her with the director of Bridesmaids, which was kind of her big breakthrough, Paul Feig. And this is an espionage action comedy with a great cast supporting McCarthy: Jason Statham, Jude Law, Rose Byrne, Bobby Cannavale, Allison Janney, and you even get 50 Cent. 50 Cent. It's like Curtis Jackson. What is he doing in this movie? Well, you'll find out. Surprisingly entertaining, especially considering how McCarthy has been leaning on this obnoxious, loose cannon fat girl with a well of resentment routine in most of her previous films. I mean, there's pluck here and kind of sweetness, a no-nonsense capability. She plays sort of a kind of an aide de camp to a super spy. She works for the CIA, and when he gets in trouble, and he indeed, played by Jude Law, when he gets in trouble, she's pulled into the field by the boss, Allison Janney's character. This is frequently funny. It's very effective, and it's fairly by the numbers because it's a spy parody, and we've seen so many of them. But there's solid direction. Love the cast, all comfortable with comedy. And in the case of Jason Statham and Jude Law, they've done action movies, so you're comfortable with them playing agents. And, damn, I actually like the movie starring Melissa McCarthy. And you couldn't say that about Identity Theft or The Heat or Tammy. Funny stuff, spanning the globe, doing crazy, goofy things, working her improv skills. Finally, something that I really like, starring McCarthy. Moving along, and we should get to Entourage, because I kind of enjoyed that show when it was on HBO. This is the feature film sequel to the series about a Hollywood star on the rise, his posse, and his agent. And it stars Adrian Grenier, or Grenay, as the pretty boy Hollywood star, and also his supporting cast of buddies, Kevin Dillon, Matt's brother, as sort of the brother of the star who hopes to be a star himself and has been having trouble. Jeremy Piven is the agent. This guy has celebrity cameos. I mean, I thought the TV series was slick and clever, and the guys from Back in the Hood sticking with the star as he reaches celebrity. It's not that unfamiliar to real life, and so the film is supposed to continue the show, which I think ended 100 years ago, and they went to the well once too often and stay there for a tedious 1 hour and 45 minutes. It's like the world's longest and most pointless episode of the series, and we don't even care about the successes or failures of this douche brigade because of the way the movie's written and the fact that it's got that stale feeling. Rampant sexism, which has lost its charm, a bit of the old homophobia from the agent character. It's kind of ineffective. In fact, it's about as ineffective as a bottle of roofies past their expiration date, speaking of the sexism and the predatory nature of the guys toward the women in this film. There were like kind of droll, cartoonish Hollywood in-jokes in the TV show, and they're like done to death now. Nothing new or fresh here. And, all these guys and their high-rolling associates, they don't even seem enviable at this point. The cameos include Bob Saget, Andrew Dice Clay, Mark Cuban, Liam Neeson, Kelsey Grammer, David Spade, George Takei. I mean, just people who when they said, hey, want a paycheck? You want to show up? They show up. And Mark Wahlberg is in this thing, too, playing a Mark Wahlberg. And he produced, and I think with his own posse, inspired the original series. And one more note, Patriots quarterback cheat Tom Brady gets a few seconds of screen time, but it also fails to inflate the film, if you know what I mean. This is supposed to be a comedy, and it just ain't funny. I will note that Billy Bob Thornton plays like a super wealthy Texas investor, and he sort of IMs it in. And Haley Joel Osment of The Sixth Sense and more recently Spoils of Babylon plays his scuzzball kid, and he's quite good. And I didn't dislike Ronda Rousey, the MMA superwoman. She plays herself in kind of a romantic pod to do with one of the cronies. But mostly it's the immensely unlikable Jeremy Piven, kind of comedy kryptonite as the studio head who used to be their agent. This is just as a waste. Entourage, wow. What a disappointment on so many levels. Did you ever watch the show, Alex?
Yes.
And what was your take on the show?
It's okay. As the seasons wore on, it just, as with most series, became tiresome.
Man, really, seriously, who needed this? All right, now something that delighted me no end. Love and Mercy, one of the best and most creative pop musician biopics I've ever seen. This movie creates a kind of a fascinating, really insightful portrait of Beach Boy leader, singer, musician, composer, genius, weirdo, Brian Wilson, by splitting the portrayal into two, with Paul Dano playing the younger, kind of tormented Brian at the height of his creative powers, and John Cusack playing the elder, damaged Brian under the thumb of psychologist Eugene Landy, who is played here to a fare thee well by Paul Giamatti. Elizabeth Banks is Melissa, the woman who would become Melissa. She would become his second wife, Wilson's second wife, and help liberate him from what the film depicts as a kind of second-rate Svengali who has him in his clutches. And that's the Eugene Landy character, who admittedly helped him kind of straighten up and drop away the drugs and the alcohol, but began to control his career to his detriment. And I got to say, the early sequences are amazing, especially those in the recording studio with the Wrecking Crew, the famous LA session musicians, as they followed his lead to record the most innovative and celebrated material in his discography, the Pet Sounds album and the scrapped, but I guess now lauded Smile album that you can get so many years later. And Dano's like a revelation in the scenes. He truly embodies Wilson. You don't see Dano there. Plus, the casting people actually found actors who could pass as the young Beach Boys and the legendary session musicians Hal Blaine and Carol Kay. They're not just lookalikes, they're just dead on. And that's why Cusack's fine performance as the older Brian pales a bit by comparison, because he's just so John Cusack. That said, he and Banks and Giamatti are never less than on their game. This is moving stuff all the way, and you throw in Wilson's lovely, timeless music, and you've got a hell of a film with Love and Mercy. In terms of major releases this weekend, I will wrap it with Testament of Youth, which stars the young Scandinavian actress Alicia Vikander, who was so amazing in Ex Machina and so wasted in Seventh Son. And she's fantastic here as Vera Britton, who was a kind of a country lifestyle daughter of a fairly well-to-do family whose brother and his friends go off to war. So this is based on her First World War memoir, and it's become kind of the classic testimony of that war from a woman's point of view. Kit Harington from Game of Thrones plays the love of her life, or what seems to be the love of her life. And Taron Egerton plays her brother. He's the guy who played Eggsy in what's it called? The spy thing from Matthew Vaughn, Kingsman. And this is good stuff. It's kind of studied and your basics, tale of love, war, and remembrance. But man, everybody delivered. Haley Atwell and Emily Watson have supporting roles in this thing, but they didn't stint on it. And director James Kent has an even hand. And Vera Britton, actually, her work, her book has become kind of an ongoing bestseller. Testament of Youth. I give it a big recommendation. Dominic West, by the way, is also in this thing. They didn't stint. I didn't catch Insidious Chapter 3, the third movie in the horror series. I'm sure it's, more kind of jump out of your pants scares. But, if you like this kind of thing, I'm sure you're going to go whether I say it's good or not. Watching any TV, Mr. Bennett?
Not really, although Netflix has the Wachowski brothers. doing I think it's a 12 or 13 episode binge watcher called Sense8, which the reviews I've seen on it have been pretty damn good, saying it's the first time they've been good in a long time.
Wow.
So it'll be interesting to take a look at that. That's about it.
Speaking of things that are involved in television, I doubt if this is still in the theaters, but I haven't mentioned it to you before, but What We Do in the Shadows is really, really funny and entertaining.
You mentioned it last week.
Yeah, I just wanted to reiterate, I just think it's a cool film and worth checking out.
Okay.
Vampires in Wellington. That's it, buddy.
Okay, that's I guess that's it. Thank you so much, Michael. Tell them where they can find you.
I'm at Twitter, and you can look me up at Culture Blaster, and you can find Michael Snyder's Culture Blast page on Facebook for your liking and perusal.
All righty, and hopefully we'll see you again next week.
Okie doke.
Have a good time down there in L.A. Bye.
Bye.
I'm Alex Bennett. That was Michael Snyder, and there's more Gabnet coming up.